Hi, welcome to Oma's Kitchen.
Oregano.
Let's make baked penne with a cacciatore-style sauce and meatballs. Let's make the meatballs first. I'm using a ground bison, but you could substitute a very lean ground beef. I loosen up the meat a little bit with a knife, and then I'm going to add 1 egg. To that, I will add 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce, which is about all I had left. And I will add a couple of teaspoons of the Better Than Bouillon beef base. Even though I'm using bison, I think it adds a nice beef flavor to the meatballs. Next, we will add onion powder, and I'm adding about a teaspoon of each. Some salt, some cracked black pepper, and some dried parsley. Since these meatballs are made with either very lean beef or bison, I'm adding a couple of teaspoons of olive oil to the mix. It'll help keep them moist in the oven when we bake them. I use a fork to mix it all together, and I'll put the recipe up here for you while I do that. And at the end here, I'll be adding some Italian-style breadcrumbs and a little bit of Parmesan cheese. I start with about 1/3 cup of breadcrumbs, and I add in my couple of tablespoons of freshly grated Parmesan cheese as well. And I see how that mixture looks once I get it mixed in. I usually end up adding a little bit more breadcrumbs at the very end and mixing those in. You don't want it too bready, but the breadcrumbs help keep these meatballs light. It ends up being about 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs altogether. Once that's all mixed together, I thoroughly wash my hands and dry them before I roll out the meatballs. You're going to want to preheat your oven to 400 degrees at this point. A heaping tablespoon of the meat mixture allows me to roll out meatballs that are about golf ball size, and I get about 15 of them on my tray. I like baking these in the oven. They come out very moist and tender, and it avoids all of the oil and mess from trying to fry them. Now they're all lined up on the tray, and they go in the oven at 400 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes. Check on them at the 25-minute point. While the meatballs are in the oven, let's start on the Cacciatore-Style sauce. I have a leftover chicken breast here from last night's dinner. I have a carrot and an onion. I have a lot of bay leaf. I'm going to use 2 jars of my home canned tomatoes, and it's okay if you don't have home canned tomatoes. Just buy 2 15-ounce cans of crushed tomatoes to add to your sauce. I'm also adding a can of fire roasted diced tomatoes. I like that flavor in the sauce. In the background there, you can see a little can of tomato paste. For some reason, I didn't pick that up and show it to the camera, but it's there. I have a bunch of Italian spices, and I have some port wine. And then, of course, I have a box of dried penne pasta. Okay, so let me put the recipe up here for you while I slice my carrot and chop up my onion. Cacciatore means hunter's style in Italian, and a cacciatore sauce typically includes chicken, a lot of bay leaf, and some other vegetables besides tomatoes. This is an excellent way to use up leftover chicken. I'm going to pull it off the bone and then cut it into strips and chop it about the same size as the onion, and I will cook all of those together to provide the flavor for the sauce. I put it all in the same bowl because it's all going in the pan together. The meatballs are done and they look terrific. They're lightly browned on the bottom and very tender, and I will put them aside to let them cool while I put together the pasta and the sauce. We live in a hard water area, so I use purified water when I cook, and I add some salt to the pot. I've got some olive oil here to go into my pan. To that, I will add the chicken and vegetables to start the cacciatore sauce. To this, I will add some salt, some garlic powder. Now, I use garlic powder because I am a little bit garlic averse. If you love garlic, throw some crushed garlic in at this point. I have some basil, parsley, and I'm going to put some oregano in there as well. One of my favorites, oregano. A little bit of cracked black pepper. And then I will cover this over once I stir it all together, and I will leave it to cook for a few minutes until the onions are partially cooked and kind of see-through. Okay, my veggies look partially cooked, and I'm going to add in about 1/3 cup of port wine. You can use regular red wine if you have it. In goes the diced fire-roasted tomatoes, and I will stir all of that together. I wish you could smell it. It smells wonderful as it's cooking. All of the cooking I do for this sauce is done over medium heat. I just wanted to mention that. I'm adding both jars of my crushed home-canned tomatoes to the sauce, and I will stir that in a bit with the bay leaf. And I think I have 4 or 5 bay leaf in there. Part of the Cacciatore-style flavoring is you can taste the bay leaf in the sauce. So you need to add a couple of extra ones in there and give it a few minutes to cook together. Finally, I'm adding my tomato paste. This will help thicken the sauce, and it'll make the tomato flavor more intense. Actually, it thickens the sauce a little too much, so I have to add a little water at the end. I gently stir the tomato paste in with the rest of the sauce. In goes the water, and then I will cover it, and over medium or medium-low heat, let it cook until it boils together for a while, and the sauce comes out great. I add my dried pasta to my salty boiling water, and wait until it comes back to a boil before setting the timer. Now, because I live at altitude, I have to let it cook a little longer, and I cook mine for 12 minutes. Then I taste the sauce. I want to see if it needs anything. Turns out mine needed a little bit of salt added to it. And I occasionally stir the penne until they're done. Never rinse your pasta noodles. It takes away all of the flavor and nutrients from the pasta. Now that those are drained, I'm getting the bay leaves out of my sauce. I want their flavor in my sauce, but I want to remove the leaves before I assemble the dish. Now I will reserve a cup of the sauce for the assembly process. I'm just setting that aside in a glass measuring cup. The noodles go into the sauce, and I will mix it around fairly well and turn off the heat. The noodles start to soak up the sauce right away. I have prepared my giant baking dish by smearing a little olive oil along the bottom and around the sides to keep it from sticking. I'll mix the noodles with the sauce one more time, And then I will dump the whole frying pan, noodles, sauce, and all, into my baking dish. You can see I forgot one of the bay leaves there, so I have to pull that out. This is where you'll want to preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm adding a good couple of cups of freshly grated Parmesan cheese to the top. This is the Parmigiano Reggiano, which is the good stuff. I'm going to nestle the meatballs down into the top, over top of the Parmesan. And I have to make room for them. I had so many. And if you remember, we reserved a cup of the sauce. So this is where I take that cup of sauce and I drizzle it over top of the meatballs. This keeps them from drying out in the oven. You know, and the flavors kind of get together and have a party. It's really good. Once I've used all the sauce, I put the rest of the Parmesan over the meatballs. Sprinkle it all around there, and don't be shy because this cheese melts in with the sauce and it's wonderful. Bake at 400 degrees covered with aluminum foil for 40 to 45 minutes. And then look at this beautiful dish we made. This is enough for 2 nights dinner for 3 people. And that's Cacciatore-Style baked penne and meatballs. Thank you for joining me in Oma's Kitchen. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll upload more tasty videos soon, and a special shout out to Moon Pie and Lil Bit. Till next time.